Hey, deep divers. Welcome back to the show. So glad to have you with us. You know how we do it right. We take those mountains of articles, research, maybe even your own notes, and we extract the good stuff, the stuff that'll help you ace that exam, or just win your next trivia night.
You gotta.
But before we get started, quick reminder to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click that bell icon so you never miss an episode.
Definitely do that. You don't want to miss this.
Trust me, you don't. So today, we're diving headfirst into something that might sound a little intimidating at first, biotechnology. But honestly, it's one of the most exciting fields out there. It's literally shaping the future. And we're going to break it down in a way that's clear, engaging, and maybe even a little mind-blowing.
It really is mind-blowing, sometimes even for me. And I work in this field.
Exactly. And whether you're a UPSC aspirant trying to get that science and tech edge,
Yo.
or a student just starting to explore biology, or, hey, maybe you're just curious about how this stuff is changing our world, this deep dive is for you.
Absolutely. Everyone can get something out of this.
Okay, so let's set the stage. What exactly is biotechnology? One of the sources I was reading described it as a spectrum of colors, which I thought was a brilliant way to visualize it.
Yeah, it's a great analogy because it shows just how broad this field really is.
So we've got red biotechnology for medicine, green for agriculture, blue for marine resources. It's like a rainbow of scientific innovation.
It really is. And each color has so much to offer. I mean, think about red biotechnology. We're talking personalized medicine, designing treatments tailored to your unique genetic makeup.
Wow.
And green biotechnology. That's where we're working on drought-resistant crops. Imagine what that could mean for regions facing food shortages.
Yeah, that would be game-changing.
Absolutely. And blue biotechnology. Now that's where things get really wild.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
We're talking about harnessing the power of marine organisms to develop new medicines, new materials, things that could revolutionize entire industries.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's make sure we're all speaking the same language.
Yeah, good point.
Because when we talk about biotechnology, we hear a lot of jargon. Genes, genomes, chromosomes. It can get overwhelming.
Absolutely. Let's break it down.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is a gene?
Imagine a gene as a blueprint for a specific protein. And proteins are the workhorses of our cells. They do pretty much everything.
Okay, so genes are the instructions,
Yeah.
and proteins are the action heroes.
Exactly. And all those instructions together, they make up the genome.
So the genome is like the entire instruction manual for building an organism.
Spot on. It's the complete set of genetic instructions that makes you you.
Wow, okay, so if the genome is the whole library, where do chromosomes fit in? Are they like the bookshelves?
You got it. Chromosomes are those organized structures inside our cells that contain the DNA, and that's where all those important genes are located.
Okay, so the DNA is the language, the genes are the sentences, and the chromosomes are the books. I'm starting to feel like a geneticist over here.
You're getting it, and there's one more key player in this whole process, RNA.
Okay, RNA, hit me with it.
Think of RNA as the messenger, carrying those instructions from the DNA in the nucleus out to the ribosomes.
Ribosomes, what do those do again?
Those are the protein-making factories of the cell.
Okay, so DNA holds the master blueprints, RNA carries the copies, and the ribosomes get to work building those all-important proteins.
Got it. Exactly.
But where does all this incredible action actually happen?
It all goes down inside the cell, which is basically the fundamental unit of life.
The cell biotechnology's playground.
I like that.
Maybe we should take a closer look at this microscopic metropolis.
Definitely. Let's do it.
Okay, so paint me a picture. What's it like inside a cell?
Well, cells are incredibly complex. They have all these specialized compartments called organelles, each with its own specific job, like departments in a city.
I'm listening.
You've got the nucleus, which is like City Hall controlling all the cellular activities. Then there are the mitochondria, the powerhouses, generating energy for everything the cell needs to do.
I've heard of those. They're like the tiny batteries.
Exactly. And we can't forget the endoplasmic reticulum, a network of roads and factories where proteins and lipids are manufactured.
Wow, it really is a whole city in there.
It is. And then there's the Golgi apparatus. It's like the post office packaging and distributing molecules throughout the cell.
It's amazing how everything works together.
It really is. Now remember, plant and animal cells have some key differences.
Right. That's something our UPSC aspirants need to know.
Definitely. It's a classic exam question. Plant cells have that rigid cell wall for extra support, and they also have chloroplasts. Those are the sites of photosynthesis. That's where plants use sunlight to make their own food.
Right. It's like plants have their own built-in solar panels. Amazing. Now, there's one more type of cell that always seems to be making headlines: stem cells.
Yes, stem cells, the blank slates of the body.
Why are they so important in biotechnology?
Because they have the potential to develop into different types of specialized cells. That's why they hold so much promise for regenerative medicine.
So they're like the ultimate cellular multitaskers.
Exactly. And there are different types of stem cells with varying levels of flexibility. Embryonic stem cells, which are found in early embryos, they're pluripotent.
Pluripotent.
It means they can become almost any cell in the body. Then you have adult stem cells found in various tissues. They're more limited, but still play a crucial role in tissue repair and regeneration.
Okay, so stem cells are like the cellular superheroes, with the potential to repair and even replace damaged tissues. What are some of the ways scientists are harnessing their power?
Well, one area of intense research is in regenerative medicine. Scientists are exploring ways to grow new organs from a patient's own cells. Imagine being able to replace a damaged heart or liver with a brand new one, grown from your own stem cells.
That sounds like science fiction.
It does, but it's getting closer to reality. Researchers have already successfully grown functional mouse kidneys inside rats.
No way.
Yes, it's offering a tantalizing glimpse into the future of organ transplantation.
That's mind-blowing. It sounds like stem cells could completely transform medicine as we know it. But for now, I think we need to take a quick break and let all this sink in.
Sounds good. We'll be back in a flash to delve into the incredible tools and techniques driving all these biotech breakthroughs. Stay tuned.
Definitely stay tuned. This is just the beginning.
Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for part 2?
Absolutely. I'm still reeling from that stem cell stuff. Growing organs in a lab, it's incredible.
It really is. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. When it comes to biotechnology, we've got a whole toolkit of amazing techniques at our disposal.
Well, don't leave us hanging. What else is in this biotech toolbox?
Let's start with something you've probably heard of: DNA profiling.
DNA profiling.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
That's the stuff of crime shows, right?
Exactly. Forensic scientists use it to match DNA samples from crime scenes to potential suspects. It's all about identifying individuals based on their unique genetic code.
So it's like our own personal barcode. Pretty cool. But it's not just about catching criminals, right?
Right. DNA profiling has a lot of other uses, like establishing paternity or maternity in cases where there's a question about parentage.
I see.
And it can even be used to identify victims of disasters or accidents when other methods fail.
Wow. So DNA is like our ultimate ID card. And biotechnology gives us the tools to read it and unlock a whole world of information. Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But what happens when there are, let's say, typos or errors in those genetic instructions?
That's when we enter the realm of genetic disorders. These disorders can arise from mutations, which are essentially changes in the DNA sequence that can disrupt how genes function.
So a mutation is like a glitch in the code.
Yeah, you could say that.
And these glitches can cause all sorts of problems, right?
Right. There are several categories of genetic disorders. There are single gene disorders, like cystic fibrosis, which result from a mutation in just one gene.
Okay.
Then you have chromosomal disorders like Down syndrome, where there are abnormalities in the number or structure of chromosomes. And finally, there are multifactorial disorders like heart disease, which are caused by a complex interplay of multiple genes and environmental factors.
So it's not always a simple case of one gene, one disorder.
Not always. It can get pretty complex, but scientists are working on ways to address these challenges.
I bet they are. What kind of approaches are they taking?
One promising approach is gene therapy. The goal is to replace a faulty gene with a healthy one, to correct the underlying genetic defect.
It's like we're editing the book of life.
That's a great way to put it. It's still a relatively young field, but there have been some remarkable breakthroughs, particularly in treating certain inherited immune deficiencies.
It's incredible. And speaking of editing, I've heard a lot about gene editing technologies like CRISPR.
Oh yeah, CRISPR. That's a game changer.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
It kind of is. CRISPR is a revolutionary gene editing tool that allows scientists to make incredibly precise changes to the DNA sequence. It's like having a pair of molecular scissors that can snip and paste genetic material.
So with CRISPR, we can target specific genes and fix those errors. What are the potential applications of this technology?
The possibilities are pretty mind-boggling. In medicine, CRISPR holds immense potential for treating genetic disorders, developing new cancer therapies, even engineering disease-resistant mosquitoes to combat malaria and other mosquito-borne illnesses.
Whoa, hold on. Engineering disease-resistant mosquitoes. How does that work?
It's pretty amazing. Scientists can actually modify the genes of mosquitoes so that they can't transmit diseases like malaria.
Wow, that could save so many lives.
It could. In agriculture, CRISPR could lead to crops that are more resistant to pest diseases and harsh environmental conditions.
So we could increase food production and reduce reliance on pesticides.
Exactly. It's a really powerful tool.
It sounds like CRISPR could revolutionize everything from healthcare to agriculture. But with such powerful tools comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely. The ability to manipulate the building blocks of life raises some profound ethical questions. We need to think carefully about responsible innovation, potential unintended consequences, and even the very definition of what it means to be human.
It's a good reminder that science and ethics go hand in hand. Now, earlier we talked about DNA profiling and how it's used to identify individuals. What about understanding the entire human genome? I remember the Human Genome Project being a massive scientific undertaking. What impact did it have on biotechnology?
Oh, the Human Genome Project was a landmark achievement, no doubt about it. By mapping the entire human genome, scientists gained unprecedented insights into the blueprint of human life. One of the most surprising findings was that we have far fewer genes than initially anticipated, only around 20,000 to 25,000, which is surprisingly close to the number of genes in a fruit fly.
Wait, really? That's kind of humbling. So if we don't have that many genes, what accounts for all the complexity of human life?
That's a great question. It turns out that the complexity lies not simply in the number of genes we have, but in how those genes are regulated and how they interact with each other and with the environment. It's like a symphony, not just a collection of individual notes.
Okay, that makes sense. The Human Genome Project laid the groundwork for understanding our genetic blueprint. What's happening in the field of genomics now?
Building on that foundation, scientists are now delving deeper into the variations in our genomes that contribute to everything from disease susceptibility to individual traits. This field is called genomics, and it's advancing at an incredible pace, thanks to technological breakthroughs in DNA sequencing, which is becoming faster, more accurate, and more affordable.
So genomics is helping us understand the subtle differences in our genetic makeup that make each of us unique.
Exactly. And this knowledge is paving the way for personalized medicine, where treatments are tailored to an individual's specific genetic profile. It's about moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare and embracing the power of individual variation.
Personalized medicine sounds incredibly promising. What are some examples of how it's being used today?
Well, in cancer treatment, for instance, doctors are increasingly using genetic testing to identify specific mutations that are driving a patient's tumor growth. This allows them to select targeted therapies that are more likely to be effective and have fewer side effects compared to traditional chemotherapy, which can be a pretty blunt instrument.
That's amazing. It's like we're finally starting to crack the code of human health at the molecular level.
But speaking of cracking codes, let's talk about a topic that often sparks debate: genetically modified organisms, or GMOs.
Ah, yes, GMOs, always a hot topic.
What exactly are GMOs, and why are they so controversial?
GMOs are organisms whose genetic material has been altered in a way that doesn't occur naturally through traditional breeding methods. It's about introducing specific genes to enhance certain traits, like pest resistance in crops or increased nutritional value.
So it's like giving organisms a genetic upgrade. What are some of the concerns people have about GMOs? One concern is the potential for unintended consequences. When you introduce a new gene, it's not always predictable how it will interact with other genes or with the ecosystem as a whole. For example, there are concerns about herbicide-resistant weeds evolving as a result of the widespread use of herbicide-tolerant crops.
So it's about weighing the potential benefits against the potential risks. What's the current status of GMOs globally?
It's a complex landscape. Different countries have different regulations regarding the development, testing, and commercialization of GMOs. Some countries have embraced GMOs, particularly in agriculture, while others have adopted a more cautious approach, prioritizing the precautionary principle.
So it's a bit of a global patchwork when it comes to GMO regulations.
Interesting.
Now, I can't resist asking about another biotech topic that always captures the imagination: cloning.
Cloning. The stuff of science fiction.
What exactly is cloning? And what are some of the ethical considerations surrounding this technology?
Cloning is essentially the process of creating a genetically identical copy of an organism. Think Dolly the sheep, the first cloned mammal, which was a major scientific milestone.
Dolly was a rock star, but cloning technology is still relatively young, right? Are there still challenges to overcome?
Definitely, cloning is a complex process with a low success rate. Cloned animals often have health problems and shorter lifespans compared to their naturally conceived counterparts.
So it's not quite as straightforward as some science fiction movies might suggest. What about the ethical concerns surrounding cloning?
One major concern is the potential for exploitation. Some people worry that cloning could be used to create designer babies with specific traits, raising questions about genetic determinism and the value of human diversity.
That's a valid concern. It's important to consider the ethical implications alongside the scientific advancements. Now, another topic that often sparks debate is the idea of growing human organs in animal bodies. Is this something that's actually possible?
It's an area of active research, and there have been some promising developments. We talked earlier about scientists growing functional mouse kidneys inside rats using stem cells. The idea is to potentially use animals as living incubators for growing human organs, to address the critical shortage of organ donors.
That would be a game changer for millions of people waiting for organ transplants. But I imagine there are ethical concerns about using animals in this way.
Absolutely. Concerns about animal welfare, the potential for creating animals that are too human-like, and the very idea of blurring the lines between species are all part of the ethical debate surrounding this technology.
It seems like every breakthrough in biotechnology comes with a set of ethical challenges to ponder. Now let's shift our focus to a group of organisms that play a crucial role in both human health and the environment. Microbes.
Microbes, those tiny but mighty creatures.
What are microbes and why are they so important?
Microbes are microscopic organisms, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protozoa. They are literally everywhere, from the depths of the oceans to the air we breathe, and even inside our own bodies.
I've always been fascinated by the invisible world of microbes. What makes them so essential?
They play critical roles in various ecosystems, from nutrient cycling to decomposition, and they're also crucial for human health. We have trillions of microbes living in and on our bodies, collectively known as the microbiome.
The microbiome, I've heard that term a lot lately. What role does it play in our health?
The microbiome is involved in a whole range of functions, including digestion, immune system development, and even mental health. Imbalances in the microbiome have been linked to various diseases, from obesity to autoimmune disorders.
So maintaining a healthy microbiome is crucial for our overall well-being. How can biotechnology help us do that?
Biotechnology is playing a key role in understanding and manipulating the microbiome for therapeutic purposes. For example, fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT, is a procedure that involves transplanting fecal matter from a healthy donor to a recipient with a disrupted microbiome.
Okay, that sounds interesting. How does it work exactly?
It's like a microbial ecosystem restoration. It's been shown to be highly effective in treating certain gut infections, like Clostridium difficile infection, which can be life-threatening. Researchers are also exploring the use of probiotics, which are live microorganisms that confer health benefits, and prebiotics, which are substances that promote the growth of beneficial microbes, to modulate the microbiome and improve health.
It's amazing to think about the complex world of microbes living inside us. Now let's talk about another area where microbes play a crucial role. Bioremediation. What exactly is bioremediation?
Bioremediation is the use of living organisms, primarily microbes, to clean up contaminated environments, like soil or water contaminated with pollutants.
So it's like harnessing the power of nature to solve environmental problems. How does that work?
Microbes have evolved to break down a variety of pollutants, including oil spills, heavy metals, and pesticides. Bioremediation leverages this natural ability. Sometimes indigenous microbes that are already present at a contaminated site can be stimulated to break down pollutants more effectively. In other cases, specific microbes with a knack for degrading certain pollutants are introduced to the site.
That's a clever approach. It's like deploying a microscopic cleanup crew. Now let's talk about another area where biotechnology is making waves. Biofuels. What are biofuels? And why are they considered a potential alternative to fossil fuels?
Biofuels are fuels derived from biological sources, like plants or algae. They offer a renewable and potentially more sustainable alternative to fossil fuels, which are finite and contribute to climate change.
I've heard about ethanol being used as a biofuel. How is it produced?
Ethanol is typically produced through the fermentation of sugars derived from crops like corn or sugarcane. Yeast or bacteria are used to convert those sugars into ethanol. It's similar to the process of brewing beer, just on a much larger scale.
Okay, so it's like brewing fuel instead of beer. What other types of biofuels are there?
There are also advanced biofuels produced from non-food sources like agricultural residues, wood chips, or algae. These are particularly promising because they don't compete with food crops for land and resources.
It sounds like biofuels could be a key part of the solution to our energy challenges. But are there any drawbacks?
There are challenges, of course. The production of biofuels needs to become more efficient and cost-effective to compete with fossil fuels. And we also need to ensure that biofuel production is sustainable and doesn't have unintended negative impacts on the environment.
It seems like a balancing act. As with many biotech advancements, Now, before we wrap up part 2, I want to touch on another exciting area, synthetic biology. What is synthetic biology, and what are its potential applications?
Synthetic biology is a relatively new field that involves engineering biological systems to perform novel functions. It's about designing and building biological systems from the ground up, or redesigning existing ones to do specific tasks.
So it's like taking biology to the next level, almost like programming life itself.
That's a great way to put it. One example is engineering microbes to produce pharmaceuticals, biofuels, or other valuable products more efficiently and sustainably. Researchers are also exploring synthetic biology to create biosensors that can detect pollutants or diseases, and even to develop new materials with unique properties.
Wow, it sounds like the possibilities are endless. But are there ethical concerns about creating synthetic life forms?
Absolutely. The ability to engineer biological systems raises profound questions about the boundaries between natural and artificial, the potential for unintended consequences, and the responsibility of scientists to ensure that synthetic biology is used for good. It's a powerful technology that demands careful consideration and ethical oversight.
It seems like every step forward in biotechnology brings us closer to unlocking the secrets of life, but also presents us with new ethical dilemmas to grapple with. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in part 2, and I'm already feeling like a biotech whiz. But hold on to your hats, deep divers, because we've got one more part coming up where we'll delve into even more mind-blowing advancements and the ethical considerations that shape this transformative field. Stay tuned. Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for the grand finale?
I know I am. We've covered so much ground already, but trust me, we've saved some of the most mind-blowing stuff for last.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat. Spill it. What other biotech wonders are out there?
Let's talk about something that sounds straight out of science fiction.
Yeah.
Genetically modified mosquitoes.
Genetically modified mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's something I need to hear more about. What's the point of creating them?
It's all about combating those nasty mosquito-borne diseases, like malaria, dengue fever, Zika virus.
Oh, right. Those diseases cause so much suffering, especially in tropical regions.
Exactly. And these GM mosquitoes, they're actually designed to fight back.
Wait, so these mosquitoes, they actually fight the diseases themselves?
You could say that scientists have developed a couple of different approaches. Some GM mosquitoes are engineered to be resistant to the pathogens that cause these diseases, so they can't transmit them to humans. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
And then there are other GM mosquitoes that are designed to have shorter lifespans, or to produce offspring that don't survive, which helps to reduce the overall mosquito population.
Wow, so it's like we're fighting disease at the source. Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are concerns about releasing genetically modified organisms into the environment.
Oh, absolutely. There are always potential risks. Scientists are very careful to study these things before any large-scale releases. We have to think about the potential impact on the ecosystem, things like that.
Right, it's about finding that balance between potential benefits and potential risks.
Exactly. And speaking of delicate balances, let's talk about another area of biotechnology that's both promising and ethically complex: embryo transfer technology.
Embryo transfer. Okay, I know that's used in assisted reproduction like IVF, but can you remind me how it actually works?
Sure, it involves fertilizing an egg with sperm in a lab and then transferring the resulting embryo or embryos into a woman's uterus so she can hopefully become pregnant.
So it's giving couples who are struggling to conceive a chance to have a biological child.
Exactly. And it's helped millions of people worldwide experience the joy of parenthood. It really is an incredible gift. But of course, like many biotech advancements, it comes with ethical considerations.
Yeah, I can imagine. What kind of ethical challenges are we talking about?
Well, one concern is the potential for multiple births. If multiple embryos are transferred, it increases the chances of pregnancy. But it also raises the risk of having twins, triplets, or even higher order multiples, which can be risky for both the mother and the babies.
That makes sense. Are there other concerns?
Another big one is what happens to those surplus embryos that are created during IVF. Some couples freeze them for future use, others donate them to research, or to other couples. But the ethical implications of creating and disposing of human embryos are really complex.
Right, it's technology that touches on some very profound questions.
Right.
Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about something I've always found fascinating. Three-parent babies.
Three-parent babies. That definitely sounds futuristic.
It does. So how does that even work, and what's the purpose?
It's a technique that's designed to prevent the transmission of mitochondrial diseases. Those are caused by mutations in the DNA of the mitochondria. The tiny powerhouses inside our cells.
Right, mitochondria. And if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
they're inherited only from the mother.
You got it. So if a woman has a mitochondrial disease, there's a high chance she'll pass it on to her children. But three-parent baby technology offers a way to break that cycle.
Okay, so how does having a third parent help?
Basically, you're taking a donor egg with healthy mitochondria, and then the nucleus of the mother's egg, which contains most of her genetic material, is transferred into that donor egg.
So you're kind of swapping out the faulty mitochondria.
Exactly. And then the egg is fertilized with the father's sperm. So the resulting embryo has DNA from three people: the mother, the father, and the mitochondrial donor.
Wow. It's like a cellular switcheroo.
Hmm.
Pretty ingenious. But are there ethical concerns about this technique?
There are. Some people worry about the long-term health effects on children born through this method, and others object to manipulating the human germline, making changes to the DNA that will be passed down to future generations.
Those are definitely important things to consider. It seems like every breakthrough in biotechnology opens up new ethical questions.
It does, and that's why it's so important to have these conversations.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up this incredible deep dive, I want to touch on one more concept we mentioned earlier, the bioeconomy. What exactly does that mean?
The bioeconomy. It's basically all the economic activity that's derived from biotechnology. It's a huge and rapidly growing sector with applications in healthcare, agriculture industry, you name it.
So it's about harnessing the power of biology to create new products and solutions.
Exactly. The bioeconomy is driven by innovations in areas like genomics, synthetic biology, and bioinformatics. It's all about using biological resources to address all sorts of challenges.
What are some examples of things that fall under the umbrella of the bioeconomy?
Well, we've already talked about a lot of them. Biofuels, pharmaceuticals, genetically modified crops. But there are also things like bio-based materials, like biodegradable plastics made from plants, and enzymes used in all kinds of industrial processes.
It sounds like the bioeconomy isn't just about creating new industries and jobs, it's also about making our world more sustainable.
Absolutely. And as biotechnology continues to advance, the bioeconomy is going to play a bigger and bigger role in shaping our future.
Well, that's a fantastic note to end on. It's been an incredible journey through the world of biotechnology, exploring all its amazing potential and the ethical considerations that come along with it.
It's been a pleasure. I always love getting to dive deep into these topics.
And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. We hope you've learned something new and are as excited as we are about the possibilities of biotechnology. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.